6:30, we're going to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Let me fix this. All right, attendance, James?
Yep. President Dr. Reese,
Present.
Vice President McDonough,
Here.
Secretary Summers here, Treasurer Hanser,
Present.
and Trustee Schaefer,
Here.
Trustee Schultz, Trustee Whitney.
Here.
All right, any changes to the board agenda? I have none.
I have one.
Okay.
Due to road conditions, I would like to have the teacher cadet program, which is going to be presented by Lisa Butts, please moved up to the superintendent's report, making that item A, 6A. I know you have people who want to speak to current A and B. We would just let them speak to B and C during public comments.
Sounds good.
Lisa lives in a road that she needs to be home sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Just for everybody's information, the information we're getting from our transportation department is that the back roads are becoming very bad for travel. So if anyone here is on a back road, you probably need to. Well, board members can't leave anyway, but even if you're on, for anyone else who's on a back road, they may want to think about it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we will start with our school presentations with Oxford Middle School, Mr. Bigelow.
All right, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. Brad Bigelow, principal at the middle school. Very thankful for the opportunity this evening to discuss some things that are going on at the middle school, our points of pride, as well as our goals for the 2023-24 school years. And so let's dive in. It was about a year ago or so, our attitude in the middle school, we started brainstorming and planning for this school year, just talking about scheduling, needs, hopes, dreams, things like that as we approach this school year. And one of the ideas that we had, we know that our students come to us from the elementary level and they have a recess block every single day tied to lunch. And I don't know about you, one of my fondest memories of my middle school experience is that we also had a recess block, and how beneficial that was for us as students to be able to have that brain break, to be able to socialize with our peers, just take a break from the rigors of the school day. And so we started with that idea in mind. We started looking at research, and we researched the importance of having a formal break during the course of the day. There's nothing but positive results from that search. And so we went ahead and started planning for that. And so the idea came to fruition at the start of the school year in the fall. And we call our recess block formally ABT, Academic Break Time. We've made some changes this fall. Initially we had our 6th and 7th graders sharing the same 36-minute block, and that was really hard for us, so we changed it. So every grade level has their own 36-minute block each day. It's a combination of lunch, and then depending on the time of the year, that will alter what the plans are for our kids each day at lunch. So right now, for example, with the temperatures being what they are, we have students that go to the gym every single day. We have the media center that's an option for our kids where they're able to go. They do Legos, they read, they do puzzles, they color, they hang out with Dr. Willoughby. I know she's having a blast with it. She's doing a great job. Some of our students will choose to stay in the cafeteria and socialize with their peers. It just allows them a little bit of extra time to eat and have that time. In the fall, we had a nature pathway we kind of cleared that out. We were able to offer that for kids. Our students love being on the nature trail. And then, of course, we open up the track where kids are able to go outside, they use the field, they play catch, they shoot hoops. So it's been a great addition to our daily schedule at the middle school. We've been very happy with it. This is still early, and this is not a direct correlation yet. Like I said, still too early, but we wanted to run some numbers and see where we were at, to see if academic break time, there was a correlation with perhaps behaviors that we were seeing in the past in the building. And up to this point, we've seen a 43% reduction in office referrals. Again, it might not just be specific to ABT, but just something to think about as we move forward. 88% of our students stated they could find an engaging activity each day at ABT, so that was encouraging. And I added it this afternoon, I'm not seeing it, but the last piece of data that we wanted to share, 68% of our students said that having ABT on their schedule, they felt helped increase their focus and organization in the classroom. I also want to give a special shout out to our kitchen staff at the middle school because they've been phenomenal as we have adjusted and played with that schedule throughout the course of the fall. Miss Mary Ann, she's been fantastic with her crew. They've been very flexible, so extremely grateful for them as well. Total team effort. The next goal, I believe this was on our one of our goals last year. It's something we're continuing to focus on, increasing social emotional learning. And again, it's really focusing on those competencies. I believe you've been presented what those are in the past, but just as a reminder, that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Those are all areas we're focusing on within advisory. And helping us do that is a new resource called Trails. It's going to support our teachers as they help deliver those lessons in classes. Our teachers just went through training in the past couple of weeks. We're really excited to get that going. We know Trails is going to be a huge help to our staff and really help our kids as well. Our first lessons using Trails will take place next month. That third goal is we have increased our advisory time. So our students on a normal rotating day will come to advisory first. In years past, they've always gone to first hour first and then to advisory. So a change this year, they begin their day in advisory and then they also end their day in advisory. So the first advisory block is 25 minutes and at the end of the day, it's 19 minutes. So a total of 44 minutes, 4 days a week, they go to advisory. We felt it was really important as we develop relationships with kids and strive to connect with them and get to know them the best that we possibly can, that there were benefits for the same teacher seeing the same group of students when they come into school in the morning, and also being able to connect with them again at the end of the day. It's really helped our teachers develop deeper connections with our kids. You really get to see how they operate in those early morning hours at 7:30, and then again at the end of the day. We're seeing a lot of benefits with that already. The main focus of the second advisory period is really to focus on those self-management skills for our kids. It's getting into Schoology, organizing yourselves for that evening. What homework do you have? What do you need to prepare for? Do you have an upcoming test? How can you be better organized as a learner so you're prepared tomorrow morning so you're not stressed out and you feel ready to go? So that's a big positive to this academic advisory that occurs at the end of the day. Again, 74% of our students state that academic advisory helps them keep up with assignments and organization. So already we're seeing benefits of that second period of the day. Lastly, something that we're consistently working on, it's a main focus for us every single day. It comes back to our school culture and climate. Something we're always trying to get better. We're always monitoring our practices and making adjustments in terms of what we can do better. We are continuing with our PBIS lessons delivered during advisory. Those take place during the first advisory period of the day. We have a group of teachers who serve on our PBIS committee. They sit down every month, they look at data, we talk about what types of discipline things are going on in the building, how can we get better, what are our kids struggling with, what are some lessons that we can put together to support our kids and help them get back on track. Also, our Oveus bullying prevention lessons, we do those in advisory as well, focusing on strategies for really standing up for students who may be bullied, giving them strategies. We have a strong partnership with our Oxford High School mentorship program. They've been vital. They come every Tuesday, deliver lessons, grade level lessons. There's usually 2 of them that will pair in a specific classroom. They've been outstanding for us. And looking at our data, especially last year, we saw an increase in some behaviors that we weren't too fond of in our hallways and our bathrooms. We felt that we needed to address that. So as a result, we have put into place in September the e-hall pass program. So this is done electronically. Our students have to log into the system. They have to formally submit a pass to go out in the hallway, to go to another classroom, to use the restroom, and then it will track the number of times they've been in the hallway. It will track how long they are out of the classroom, and then when they come back into the classroom, they check themselves in. So we're able to see how often a student is leaving the classroom, how much instructional time they may be missing. There's some other things we can do as well. If we know, for instance, my son Brady struggles with a peer out in the classroom, we can set it up where he cannot be out in the hallway with that other student. So already we're seeing a lot of benefits of that. I think this year we've only had 3 bathroom incidents, and that's not specific to bullying, but it's just normal behavior. And quite honestly, that's usually the boys, not so much the girls. And I believe we've had 8 hallway incidents so far this year. So a lot of that's horseplay, just banter back and forth between students, but I wanted to share that with you. And in addition, restorative practices is something that we'll be addressing before the end of the school year. We'll be working with Bridget Bittner. She'll be helping us get all of our staff trained. Some of our staff members have already been trained, but we're going to be moving forward more formally with making sure our staff across the board have all received that training. Points of pride, I think first and foremost, we have outstanding kids. Extremely blessed to be able to serve with our principal, our ad team, and our teachers talk about that all the time. We have great students. And so top left-hand side, those are our web leaders. We have 3 supervisors, Marie Murphy, Lisa Brennan, and then also Paige Kelly. This is a group of students that they are leaders within the building. They put on our annual web day that takes place after our 5th graders transition to the middle school in August. And this year, as a part of academic advisory, 2 days a week, they are going into 6th grade classrooms and working with our 6th grade students. They're providing some tutoring opportunities. They're engaging with them, and again, just trying to have some of those peer-to-peer relationships. So we're really pushing that. They've done a great job. Our PBIS program, which I had already mentioned earlier, you'll see the top right-hand corner, we're recognizing students monthly for being principal caring and communicators. Bottom left, we have a Wildcat Shack. We have students that oversee that. Our students can earn Wildcat Cash. We have student council. They're doing tons of things within the building, just amazing stuff. Bottom right-hand corner, we see Mario and Luigi. Those are actually some of our drama club students who are out in the community and taking their talents there, being provided those opportunities. And then, as always, we have our athletics program, which is thriving. I believe this fall, in the first winter session, we had 45% of our students who participated in some type of sport. And at the middle school level, we know how that important it is to be engaged and connect with peers. We recently had our annual giving week. We raised almost $4,000 for the K-9 rescue organization, and our student council was instrumental in helping lead that. Our music programs are are doing extremely well. They're prepping for festivals that are taking place here over the course of the winter. And then that last picture, bottom right, we had a number of parent volunteers as part of our PTO who are in helping with holiday shops. So parents are always striving at the middle school level, how can I get to those classrooms, how can I get to that building and support the building. So we have a lot to be thankful for. So I appreciate your attention this evening and being able to just talk about the middle school these past few minutes. So thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I just did have one question. When you say the bathroom versus the hallway, and is that a reduction, the 3 and the 8, or is it?
It's a huge reduction, yes.
Okay.
I don't have specific numbers. I guess I can speak to when we look at our Obeya survey. When you look at our Obeya survey data from last winter, students who identify they have been bullied, for example, 1 to 2 times for a month, 49% of boys said that it occurred either in the hallway or the bathroom, and 37% of girls said it was the hallway or the bathroom. So we knew we needed to put some other measures in place to support students and get a handle on that.
Does anybody else have questions,
I do.
comments? Mike?
So the e-hall pass, so that can only be checked in and out on their Chromebook, and then they have to leave it in their classroom?
Yes, they use their Chromebooks, and the Chromebook stays in the classroom. Yes.
Okay, so that's how, and then you said it can track like how often and for how long?
Yes.
Is that just passive, or is that active? Like, do we have like alerts set up if a student hasn't returned?
Yes.
Over a certain amount of time?
It's very visual, which I love. So you can set up parameters where I'm giving you 8 minutes, for example. And then once you get down to the 2-minute warning, it will turn yellow on that Chromebook, and that teacher can see it on their dashboard as well.
Okay.
And if they've exceeded the amount of time they've been given to be out of the classroom, it turns red. We've also set it up in the building, the number of kids building-wide that can be outside the classroom at one time.
Okay.
So if you go in and say, I really need to use the restroom, well, let's say we're only allowing 25 students building-wide to be out at once, you have to wait until another student has returned to their classroom.
And then more on that like active tracking. So as far as how often, so certainly if we have kids dealing with, challenges, whether it's at home or within the school, they may want to be leaving class more often.
Correct.
Are we monitoring that side of it too?
Yes.
And following up with those kids,
We,
like with the counselors?
Yes, we run reports, and when our student response teams meet, we have that data that's available to us. So again, if my son Brady, I've noticed, oh my goodness, he's been outside the classroom, he's submitted 15 passes this week. We need to connect with him and see what's going on. That could be a potential issue.
I just have a quick comment. Oh, go ahead. Oh. I just want to say that I appreciate the format of the presentation. I like how it was very data-driven and that you included not only points of pride, but also areas to be improved upon. And then, of course, the innovative ways that you've mitigated conflict with the ABT and the hall pass. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. This is such a weird, strange angle. Thank you for the presentation, absolutely. And just when you were starting out too, just talking about your process and the ability to change. You're probably not going to do it right the first time. And I think that's a good example for our students too. We're all learning. And you're trying new things, and I really appreciate hearing about that. I think that's really important. And I think the advisory that you're talking about is crucial to be able to develop those relationships with the students. It's such there's so much growth with middle school students. They just, from 6th to 8th grade, they grow so much, and so much is changing, so it's really great to be able to have that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to comment that it was not quite a year ago, maybe 9 months or so ago, that Brad was in my office and we were talking. And he was talking about the change he was hoping to see at the middle school. And we talked about finding those best practices and finding that research base and working with staff and seeing what would happen. And I just want to say thank you, Brad, because you have put into action what you were seeking in terms of your goals. And I have noticed a change. Everybody, I think you have noticed a change. Now you are bringing data to us about change, and all in a positive, very positive direction. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks so much. All right, next school presentation, Ms. Van Loozen, Bridges.
Good evening. Thank you also for inviting us here this evening, and I am so really happy because I told my students they didn't have to come this evening because it was pretty stinky out there, but I do have a student that came, so I'm going to present a little bit, and then if you would, I would like him to come up and just talk a little bit about Bridges High School from his perspective. So I really haven't had the opportunity to be before you between COVID and so many things happening and not doing presentations for a while and new board members. So I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am before I talk about this. So I am a master's level social worker, and my education is in children and family, and I also have my school social work certification. I do also have a admin cert in secondary administration. However, my area of expertise is working with teens. I love them. I know not many people can say that, but I do. This is my passion working here. Working with teens has always been my passion, so I just wanted you to know that about who I am and how much I love the school that I have am honored to be able to run. Anyway, what is an alternative school? Well, an alternative school is a school that is not traditional. It provides opportunities for students who, in our case, may not be successful for a lot of reasons. Why am I telling you about what an alternative school is? Because in the community it tends to have a negative connotation, alternative school. Most people are like, I don't want my child to go to an alternative school. The community many times thinks that it's for students who have gotten in trouble, suspended, expelled, things such as that. And while our students at Oxford Bridges High School were not successful in a traditional setting, most of them were not successful for a multitude of reasons. For example, depression, anxiety, social anxiety, trauma. So there's a lot of things that go into a student being unsuccessful in a traditional setting. The high school is huge, so sometimes it's very difficult to be successful on a daily basis when you're talking about 1,700 other students. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Not really sure why. So anyway, I think it's really important to understand that because I think we need to work towards how we're going to help those students overcome barriers so that they can be successful young adults. So who are we? Oxford High School students are grades 10 through 12. We get referred directly from either OVA or from Oxford High School. We do not take out of the district students unless they are coming through Oxford High School. We use standards-based grading. What's standard-based grading? Well, the state of Michigan says you have to teach X, Y, and Z, and that's exactly what we grade towards. A 0 means that you have not shown competency on the standard. A 4 means not only do you know competency on that standard, you've met it, you can go above and beyond and apply it to real-world situations. We have smaller classrooms. Our class sizes range from maybe 8 to maybe 22, 23, depending on the class. Our work classes, for example, ELA, math, U.S. history tend to be a little bit larger. Our classroom learning is developed around non-traditional students. Again, my teachers have equipped themselves with many ways of teaching. They have lessons for the group this year, the group next year, because depending on the students that are in their class, they need to teach the lesson a little bit differently. They may need to do a totally different lesson depending on the students that they're teaching, but still all towards the Michigan curriculum. We do have an online component for credit recovery. That might not be the most or the best way of teaching and learning. However, because we are small and I only have 3 teaching staff, we have 4 or 5 preps, we just cannot possibly fit 9th grade curriculum into that also. Also, it's not a consequence. Students can still participate in all of Oxford activities. They can take a class at high school, they can belong to clubs, sports, so it is not a consequence. Our goals for this school year. So while we've always been doing SEL lessons since the inception of the school, this year we have really integrated it into one of our online classes. It's called Student Academic Success. Student Academic Success is 6 hours a day, and it's a component of online. So students are able to actually have a credit for participating. We do lessons every week. Lessons, for example, this year have been on goal setting, tracking your success, using like a daily mood tracker as well as a habit tracker, because sometimes when you have a goal, why aren't you meeting it? Maybe your mood that day has gotten in the way. Maybe you have some habits that are not great habits and you need to change them. So by tracking this, we did this for 3 weeks, by tracking them, students were able to look at that and look at what maybe they needed to change within themselves. What else did we do? We did a lesson on avoiding distractions, identifying your values. We did one on developing your own mission statement. And I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's developing a mission statement about you, who you are. So we started with the values and then worked on into who are you, what's your mission statement. Why? Because when you know yourself, you're better able to act on who you are and what your principles are. What we're currently working on, we just started, is resiliency through mindfulness. Mindfulness is super important, right? Because when you're mindful on your daily practices, then you're going to be able to overcome a lot more things to be successful in your future. And as we get new students this next semester, we will bring them along with that. Also, we have intervention times, so clear measurable goals for all of overall student achievement. We have intervention times built in, 7:30 to 8 every day. Students can come in to get individual help from teaching staff, work online if they're behind, work on any projects that they need to work on. We do weekly progress monitoring in our staff meetings to see how students are doing socially, emotionally, academically, attendance, and what we need to do to intervene if there seems to be some difficulties, and who intervenes. So I have a whole spreadsheet that keeps track of that for us. Exit tickets. This is something we started last year. Exit tickets, once a month, we give students an opportunity to earn a Friday off. How do they do that? They have to be caught up on all of their work. They have to have passing grades. They have to be in a position online, to be correctly online. And then they can have, it's usually the last Friday of the month. And that has been very successful. Trust of faculty and staff, which is staff wellness. We are working on, as a team, effective communication with one another, as well as team cohesion through team goals. One of our team goals is making sure that we socialize with each other. So we go out to dinner once a month, usually exit ticket. We go out to dinner once a month. And so that's been really, our staff were so small and we work really well together, but it's so important to also focus on cohesion with one another, that we're on the same page. Points of pride. So our graduation rates, and it's by fifth year because students come to us behind. So sometimes they're not able to graduate in that fourth year, and it needs a fifth year. So I did our fourth year graduation rate. This is on my school data, so it's actually state data. 2021, 100%. 22, 95%. Oh, those are so out of order. I'm sorry. 2020, 95%. 2021, 100%. And 2022, 95%. I fixed that, so I'm not sure. Just the other day. You guys look at it. And then our pass rates also. Last year, math, 93% pass rate. Science, 91%. ELA, 100%. Social studies, 96%. And then in our online courses, credit recovery, 90%. And full courses, 59%. Full courses are courses that we don't have teachers for, but students still need. Art classes, gym classes, health, language, world language. So we don't have teachers for those. Students can go to OHS if they choose, but a lot of our students choose not to do that. Lastly is our Ringmaster Service Learning Project. I love this. We implemented this in 2018, I want to say. It is a student-led project. What do I mean by that? Students pick an area that they are passionate about, that they would like to see some change made. That could be anything from school lunches to pollution, mental health, substance abuse, homelessness, domestic violence, and animal abuse. Those are some examples of our projects. Community involvement, they need to contact people in the community. So, for example, they are doing animal abuse, and they want to go to a shelter. They need to call, which is fun, and make the appointment, set it up so that we can go out there. We have gone to the shelters, the domestic violence shelters in Pontiac. I have had students working on mental health. They had some bracelets made, some feel-good bracelets made, and they went into the community and they handed them out and talked to whomever they handed it out to and took a little video of it. And it also teaches civic literacy. What is your role in your community? And how do you carry out that role? So these are just some pictures. We like to have fun. That's Teddy, who is our therapy dog. We like to dress him up. This is from Christmas. We made cookies in the top left corner. And then we also did, as a craft before Christmas, we did some ornaments with the resin. Halloween. Spirit Week, in the left middle. Spirit Week, we did some activities with the kids, and so we had first, second, third place. It was 3 teams, and we played some games, and then they earned little awards for first, second, and third place. So that's that. I don't know if you want to ask me questions first, or if I can have Dylan come up so that they can join me on the internet.
Have Dylan come up.
This is Dylan Summers. He is 12th grader with us.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Okay, so at the high school, I was not passing whatsoever. I really struggled to connect with the teachers. It didn't feel as personal, but I was basically begging to go to the Bridges. So once I got there, I got along with, well, it was a rough start because it's a new school. I didn't really know anyone. So then I started getting to know the teachers better. Now I know where I can talk to them about anything, and there's no time where I don't feel comfortable speaking to them, because they're basically family at this point. Because I can talk to them about anything. They won't judge me. They won't get mad at you and everything. And then, so my grades have gotten so much better. I can pass a class easily. If I need help, the teachers are right there. I don't even have to ask, they'll ask me if I do need help. And then I do like the Maymaster thing last year. I did a project on animal abuse, and we went to the dog shelter. It's called DAWG, D-A-W-G. So we went there, we helped out, we volunteered, we cleaned up the animal pens, we donated like treats, we donated toys. We got to make the treats, make the toys for the dogs, and it was just a really fun experience. It's a month long. I don't have, or not a month, it's somewhere around a month. But it's really fun. You get closer with your group members. You get to feel like an adult. You don't get something put right in front of you. You do it yourself and you figure it out. They're basically preparing us for the real world of that. And that was really fun. I also really appreciate all the staff too, because without them, I don't know if I even would be in school now. Because I really hated school before I went through these. I do like, I just like everything in general. I don't really have anything I can say we should change because I think it's perfect. And that's basically just it.
Thank you.
Dylan, thank you for coming out. I know the weather's been a little up and down, and I think is this your family that came with you too? Thank you for coming out and supporting Bridges High School. It is an important fabric in our big blanket of schools, and so thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Van Loosen. Thank you for coming and sharing these stories with us. I love the Maymaster. I got a card last year. It was a positive message card that was handmade. That was from one of the students, and I still have that card, and I keep that in my office at home. And I see it every day, and I really appreciate having that positive message. Thank you. And I would invite everybody. You will all get an invitation for the Maymaster event, and it's just phenomenal.
On the second to the last day, so students need to do a gallery walk as a team and present to whatever guests come. And then the last day, they have to individually defend their project. So each student is expected to stand up in front of, it's usually just, us as the teachers there, but sometimes we do have guests that come in and participate also. And it is amazing because a lot of students are very nervous about having to individually defend their project. However, we have not had anyone say I'm not doing it, no matter how nervous it is. So I'm really proud of them. But I would love for you guys to, when you issues with the first week in June, that we have the gallery walk. And I know Dr. Margaret enjoyed herself last time.
It's great. It's great. Real accomplishments.
What a testament. Thank you, Dylan. An excellent presentation. I just had one quick question. If you could give an approximation on the percentage of students that get the exit tickets every week.
I would say it's about 90%.
Wow. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the struggles that we've had really is getting students to keep timely. So we work in units of study, and what I mean by that is in ELA, they'll do a unit of study, say the reading gaps, we do a unit of study, and it might last 8 weeks or so. And students drag their feet on getting things done. And so this has really helped them because at the end of month one, they need to be caught up on everything to be able to earn that exit ticket out. So we have just found there, and I'm sorry, probably we should have, actual data, live data to give to you on this. Maybe next year. So they, being able to provide them with that opportunity motivates them. And that's what we're looking for, right? Motivation to be successful. That's what we do with our jobs, our jobs, and motivate to be successful. So that's part of our teaching process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Be moving on to the next agenda item, which is scheduled public comment for agenda items. We had 3 requests for this meeting. So we'll go in the order in which they were submitted to the board, which the first one is Danielle Krozak on superintendent's report.
Good evening. So first, I'll take a moment to point out some positive. I want to make sure that I recognize that I do acknowledge that there are positive things and actions taken, positive actions that have been taken to improve physical and emotional safety for staff and students. I see that. Therapy dogs, weapons detection, bullying policy updates, parent university, threat assessments, SEL, to name a few. I see it and I appreciate it. More importantly, I also want to recognize students and staff, teachers, that recognize that there is trauma and recovery needs that we need to focus on in the district, that are willing to acknowledge it, adapt, and support each other. I know Madeline sees it in staff and teachers and counselors, and so I recognize this, and so I want to say that. With that said, I am disappointed that we are once again referring to the recovery plan as a 3-year plan. 2022 through 2025, 3-year plan. While this might seem trivial, it's not. It's triggering, to be honest, to many. I'm sorry, I didn't think I'd. There are siblings, there are friends, there are family, there are staff, there are teachers, there are 5th-year seniors that will continue to walk the halls. For years to come. And so part of recovery and healing is acknowledging this, and we're not. So anyway, I'm asking that you change it. Please acknowledge the recovery plan. I did spend time going through it, every page, every update, and I have more questions than I got answers, to be honest. And I know there's not a lot of time, so I can send you individual examples, but I want to know, what's the percentage of training complete? We are 2 years in. We shouldn't be talking about people that still need threat assessment training. We've got some examples about anticipating, activating events, and it's like a checklist in there. But who's identifying triggering events like returning after the first day after a holiday, or birthdays, or just Tuesdays? How are we checking in on the class of 22 and 23? Those are the things that we need to see in this recovery plan. I'm almost done. Students, staff, and parents, they come here, they continue to come here, and we speak out around the lack of acknowledgement of trauma, sleepless nights, triggers, inconsistent support for students, the request for a real memorial, the demand for district accountability, resignations. This is about acknowledging their trauma and a way to heal. So it's unclear how this feedback is getting incorporated in this recovery plan. Mr. Bigelow was a great example of data-driven. So I would love to see that level of update in this recovery plan. It requires that level of attention. I would suggest that the board and administration take an opportunity to revisit this plan. Reach out to students, reach out to alumni, teachers, parents, support staff. Call back some experts that were turned away. Revisit decisions that were made that have caused damage, like bringing kids back to school or relying only on Dr. Henry. Bring back mental health days for staff. They deserve it. Urgently fill the recovery coordinator role and recognize that even one person in that role is not enough for the recovery needed across the student, staff, teachers. So again, damage is done, but you have an opportunity. You have the authority, you have the obligation, and you have insurance coverage to try and pivot and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. All right. The next item was Marissa Prince for the budget and 5-year projection.
Hi. I'd like to start by just acknowledging today was likely a difficult day for the community and the victims, and my thoughts are with everyone today. Just a reminder, no one in our community is alone right now. I don't want anyone to feel alone during these next few weeks. So the budget indicates a deficit, and you know, the state has been claiming to be providing like record-setting per pupil funding. So I guess I have concerns about why there's such a big budget projected given the increases in the funding. But I do appreciate that the superintendent is examining district spending and proactively making cuts in an attempt to relieve the deficit. I think our superintendent's been put in a hard spot by the board's decisions, including the decision to decline the Attorney General's offer to investigate our shooting and instead spend millions of dollars on an outside company. That's going to always be a big issue for me anytime I look at cutting things that affect my kids. So a couple things that aren't okay with me and need to be taken off the table for the budget cuts. Anything having to do with class sizes increasing is not okay with me. My third grader has 27 kids in her class already. Let's aim to not approach the state limits on class sizes at all levels in the interest of our teachers and students. I'm also not interested in cutting any field trips as a way to save money. Basically, any cuts that affect students and teachers and need to be looked at closely, because I don't feel that they deserve to be sort of punished for poor decisions that the board has made in the past. And just in closing, I hope that all of you have read the investigation into the Uvalde shooting. I know it's hard to read it, but there's a lot of good information there that we can benefit from. And there's a quote in there I'll just read from the report by the Department of Justice, which we should have gotten that too. What a shame. When an organization makes a mistake, it must admit that error publicly as quickly as possible. And we didn't get that either. And it's unfortunate. So I'll continue to reach out to state leaders, federal leaders, whoever I can, to try to get the help that's needed here. And I know the budget cuts are going to be hard. I just don't want it to affect the students. Thank you.
Thanks, Marissa. All right, and then Mark and the superintendent's report.
I'd like to start with some points of pride. Our precious students and our teachers, they're the best thing we have going. I'm proud to be associated with students like Dylan that just spoke and advocated to protect animals. That's very cool. Points of pride are remembering the memories of the beautiful lives of Hannah, Madison, Justice, and Justin, and Tate, who were needlessly killed at Oxford High School. I'm thankful for the new effort to settle lawsuits and complaints of the victims' families. Have you board members read the communications between your attorneys Gianmarco, Mullins, Horton, and the Michigan Attorney General's office blocking the Honorable Attorney General Dana Nessel from investigating November 30th, just weeks after the shooting? She would have done it for free at no expense to our district. Attorney General Dana Nessel made multiple attempts to investigate but was repeatedly rejected. This leads into the problem of our board members Heather Schaefer and Mary Hanser making an active effort to cover known board failures leading up to the terrorist attack at Oxford High School and ending in the murder of Hannah, Madison, Justin, and Tate, wounding many others and leaving this community without justice for over 2 years now. Then Heather Schaefer and Mary Hanser hired the Guidepost investigation, wasting $3 million in 2 years in a failed effort to cover up their crimes against this community. Less than 40% of the school's employees cooperated with the Guidepost investigation because Heather and Mary did not make employee cooperation a term of employment. Even still, the Guidepost investigation report exposed the failures of board members Heather and Mary, our superintendent, our principal Stephen Wolf, high school security, including SRO, administration, and high school counselors. In your new lawsuit against the district insurance company, your new insurance company, in your new lawsuit against the district insurance company, our new district attorneys that you just hired at the last meeting, Perkins and Coy, used information from and references from the Guidepost report, even though district employees insist the investigation is not credible and is subjective. When will the people named in our report take action and remove every person named in the Guidepost report? We need a superintendent that will not only educate but also protect the interests of our students and teachers in the fallout of November 30th, not continue the effort to distract and ignore critical issues of security and accountability for at-will employees, beginning with Stephen Wolf. Heather and Mary, when did you vote publicly to reject our Honorable Attorney General Dana Nessel?
Thank you, Mark. Real quick, we're going to do the consent agenda, and then if, Lisa, if you want to come get set up, we'll move on to you after that. In the consent agenda, you have the meeting minutes for January 16th, and the closed session, and our HR updates. If I can get a motion. Mary?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. James? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we are moving up from curriculum instruction, the Teacher Cadet CTE program, and Miss Lisa Butts, Director of CTE programs.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I am going to ask for approval as we move forward with the Teacher Cadet program. I know this is an exciting topic, to add another CTE program to our high school. Just general information here. We're looking at a CTE Education General program, and that career cluster would be our Education and Training career cluster. And then I know that there had been some questions in the past about some of our clubs that we have, and so looking forward to possibly bringing the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America program, which is the tie to the Education program. Just to give you some background information and some data as to the direction that we're moving and why. We did put out a survey in July of 2021. kind of gauging where our secondary students would be in terms of new programs in CTE. We did a survey on construction trades, machining, public safety, and education. The results of that survey were 19% of our secondary students, so approximately 1,125 students throughout the district, had expressed interest in a teacher education program. We're bringing in some current data because I do realize that there was quite a bit of a gap there. And our students are currently doing their education and development plans, and that's actually something that is started in 6th grade. But the data for today is showing you what we have in our current high school students. So we have 32 students currently who have their top career cluster as education and training. And then I dug a little bit deeper before we got here tonight to also say that we have about 29 students who have saved, in their saved careers, in their education development plan, they have education. So the course description, I had the opportunity to collaborate with some awesome career tech ed directors throughout the entire county. I worked with Lake Orion, Rochester, Waterford, and Birmingham. And so just in the development of the program, the course description, and how basically it's laid out at those other buildings. So what you'll find here is what I would like to have put into this year's course guidebook so our students could start to schedule. So this would be our year-long 2-semester course, which would be the first year for our students who are interested in becoming any career really in the education field. So what you can see here is that we would be leaning into class discussions, those guest speakers, projects. They would be introduced to classroom observations, field experiences, and they would have interactions with our administrators, counselors, teachers, and other ancillary staff throughout the district. And we would also work with our students to practice any teaching methodologies, strategies, lesson planning, classroom management. So everything that we all have learned in college, we're going to start to introduce and gain excitement for our high school students. So this is potentially what will go into the course guidebook. Our Future Educators program will follow what we call the Perkins Core Competencies, outlined by the Michigan Department of Education. So think of Perkins Core Competencies similar to Michigan Standards in any other core class that you've heard of. So in our first year course, you can see here that we would be covering Perkins Core Competencies A, B, and C, and then kind of those units of study, if you will, underneath each of those, okay? And what that shows is the progression through the program, and you'll see as we move on throughout. So this would be what would be covered in our first year 2-semester class. We would need a specific teacher of record requirement. What you may or may not know is typically in our career and technical education programs, we have, most of our teachers are coming from the industry. Well, we're coming from the industry in our own industry here. So what we're looking at is a master's level degree in education for our teacher of record. We're going to look potentially internally at OHS with potential interviews possibly happening next month. It would be a requirement of that teacher to be a member of the Michigan Educational Careers Association, and that also provides professional development within the teacher ed program. For students entering 11th grade and entering 12th grade, they'll have the opportunity to choose this class as an elective, and we would of course make sure that we provide advertising and course scheduling documents, all of the presentations for February and March when scheduling happens. When you are looking for approval from the Michigan Department of Education for a career and technical education program, you most often will be running the program continuously as you apply for the program. We plan to submit all of the documentation to the Michigan Department of Education in the fall of 2024, and this will allow for our program to be fully career and technical education approved, state approved program. So we're looking to do that in the fall of 2024, running concurrently as the classes. So it happens at the same time. One of the requirements of all of our CTE programs is that we host 2 CTE advisory committee meetings each year. We've already started that process. So in the fall of this year, we did have a group of educators at all levels. We did, and in addition to post-secondary educators who joined our CTE advisory committee meeting, we started to discuss really what that might look like And we had collaboration at the elementary level, middle school, and high school level, as well as post-secondary, ancillary staff, and mental health staff is there as well. If approved for funding at the state level, we would be funded at what's considered a 5-factor for the cost of the program and a 5-factor for the state rank. So typically, again, CTE is funded differently. There is no additional burden on the general fund. 90% of those funds that I believe Courtney's going to be talking about are used for program improvement in all of our CTE programs. What that means for a 5-factor for the cost of the program is the state determines, based off of those of us who do the reporting as to the cost of the program. It takes a look at the entire state and then determines how it should be funded based off of how the money is spent. And then the 5-factor for the state rank is basically what that hot jobs list looks like, and currently it's in the top 20 jobs in our area. Okay, so it's coming in right at the mid-level of funding, and we do have some programs that are funded higher and some that are funded lower. But that pot of money that we do receive for career and technical education, 90% of that is required by the state to be used solely for program improvement. It cannot be used for anything other than putting the money back into the programs. Looking forward to potentially year 2 option, this would be a field experience for our students. So what we're looking at is the students could potentially spend 2 days in the classroom with the teacher of record, and then 2 to 3 days in a field placement within Oxford Community School in a placement within a classroom, okay? And so that could be, students will gain hands-on experience working in the classroom at the early childhood center, at the elementary schools, or at the middle school level. They'll participate in many activities, they'll observe, they'll tutor, lead small groups, potentially create projects with the students, and eventually will be developing and teaching their own lessons. This, in addition, will be a year-long 2-semester course, and the prerequisite would be the first year. The future educator's field experience may be divided into 2 cohorts within one class, depending on where the interest level of our students lie. This will allow for our students to earn the credential. We have 2 options for our credential: a Michigan School Age Youth Development Association Associate Credential, or a CDA credential, which is a Child Development Credential. Both of those programs, or both of those certifications, require 480 hours of classroom involvement and observation. 240 of those can be done within the school day, and 240 of those have to be done outside of the school day. So we're really asking a lot of our students to be involved outside of the school day, boys and girls clubs, coaching, youth groups, things like that. But 240 of that 480 hours does have to happen outside of the classroom time, okay? Excuse me. Perkins core competencies covered in the future educators' field experience is going to be what you see here, D&E, and at the end of the 2 years, we would have our students be an entire completer of the future educators program. So it would be a 2-year full program. Last but not least, we have field experience options at all of our early childhood center, our elementary schools, and then Oxford Middle School. But we also want to make sure that I mention that we are working on a building backwards by design to make sure that all of our students are onboarded with our training requirements and all of our safety requirements that any other staff member would have. Our students would need to have that as well before they would be in the classroom. So we want to make sure that they're trained on ALIS and things like that as well. So we want to make sure that that's of utmost importance. So we're really looking at what it might look like to build from 2 years backwards and what we need to do to prepare our students to enter any one of our classrooms. And that's all I have for you tonight. Do you have any questions?
Do you have questions? Well, thank you for doing this. You know I love CTE programs.
Oh, yeah, I know you.
Just a quick question, just because I'm not an educator in primary schools and stuff. Those certifications, if they were to, when they leave Oxford and they go, does this help them advance in college studies? Do they get extra credit there, or do they, I'm assuming they can probably work like an OELC, or is there, what can they do with those, I guess?
Yes,
Help me.
they will be job ready for like an early childhood position, most of our ancillary staff, parapros, teacher assistants, things like that. And then we are currently working on a post-secondary alignment with some of our early college agreements that we already have. We're looking into how that can really align to the existing the collaborations that we already have with our early college programs, right? So some of our CTE programs, the 10 that we have right now, 4 of those are indeed early college. This would be an easy one because the credential already speaks for itself and requires so many hours of the students. So it's a very easy transition into that childhood or education program at the university.
Great. That's the only question I had. Anybody else? Mary?
For clarification, thank you, Ms. Butts. I appreciate the presentation, all the information. So just for clarity, we have to design the program, run the program, and then they'll decide if it's approved.
So there are requirements when you apply for a state-approved program. Specific requirements such as the advisory committee meetings, building the curriculum, how we might set up those Perkins core competencies. All of that needs to be turned into the state. We here feel like we need to be running that and allow for that teacher to really have that connection and collaboration with myself and a group of teachers to build that curriculum before we would apply for it. So what they're really looking for is, what are you attempting to do? And here's our suggestion, but if you're running it, you're more apt to be approved than doing it without running it.
Right, and now that makes a little more sense, that you've already worked through it, and it would be like approving a program that you've already shown is successful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. No problem.
I just want to thank the high school group that has worked with you, Lisa. This not only gets students who are interested prepared, giving them a head start into a career goal, which I think is very important, but it also, in the broad span of education across the country, this answers a question where we have a real shortage in terms of teachers, and so it contributes to that as well. I wish you, I won't be here to see it, but I really will be watching from afar and sending you my best wishes for it to succeed.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Lisa. All right. Going back to the superintendent's report, item 6 on the agenda, we will move into the budget and 5-year projection update with Courtney.
So Courtney, I'm sorry. Courtney is going to move into the actual amended current year budget and the 5-year projection, but one of the things we included in the 5-year projection that you're going to be seeing is budget reductions that are going to go in place next year. And we also have a few added budget reductions that we were able to put in place last year and over the summer that are impacting this year's budget. So I'm going to go through those first so that you can, and once all of this is presented to you tonight, all of this will then be posted on our website as well. But fortunately for us, with the 5-year projection last year, we began to see the direction that we were moving. And one of the biggest impacts on your finances here is the same that every other district is experiencing, and that is that one-time money is sunsetting. So districts across the nation got one-time COVID money, and that is now sunsetting. For us, that was in the millions, and we did a lot with that money in terms of providing instructional supports, hiring additional people for those instructional supports, and now that money is, one-time money is sunsetting. It was not an ongoing revenue source. In addition here, we had one-time money coming from federal and state sources related to the tragedy, and that one-time money was also used for resources, many of them personnel related, in the area of safety, security, mental health, social emotional learning. And that money is sunsetting as well. This is our last year for some of that money, and we hope to get some of it renewed for another year as well. but it will be a small portion of the total that the district received. So yes, we had an increase in per pupil funding. I understand that, but we also have a huge decrease in terms of the one-time money being sunsetted. So we started last year, and that was a good thing, because the earlier you can start on eliminating a deficit, the better your chances are of making it. Last year, we were able to reduce 8 positions through attrition and also by evaluating and not adding some proposed additional positions. We were also, those positions were, and on the chart that you have, you'll see that in '24, for this budget, we removed a director of maintenance and facilities, we reduced a technology consultant, a technology computer specialist 2, a 3rd grade section at OES, a Chinese teacher at middle school in OVA, a resource room teacher at OVA, a social studies teacher at OVA, and a proposed social studies coach, which we ended up not putting in place. That was over $1 million savings, which carries through for those other 5 years. I want to point out that in order to get savings in one fiscal year, you pretty much have to take your actions in the fiscal year prior. So the fact that we acted in '22-23 really allowed us to make those budget reductions you see in fiscal year '24. So this year, '23-24, the actions that I am recommending is that we keep those reductions in place, and we add to it a reduction in our facilities plan. If you recall, our first 5-year projection called for our facilities plan to attribute $1.3 million into facilities rejuvenation, repair, renovation, enhancements, and also things that we were coming to end of life, as well as the normal day-to-day facilities maintenance that we see. We have now reduced that to $500,000 a year, which also brings then the budget reduction to $800,000 a year, carried over for the next, all the way through fiscal year '28. We are also proposing to reduce the 3 guest administrators who help supervise in the hallways at the high school. They were originally hired as a 3-year plan, and at this point, we're sunsetting those 3 part-time positions. They are not full-time. We are eliminating a business and finance specialist through a retirement and through attrition, when we are putting in place 2 personnel layoffs. One is the assistant superintendent of secondary curriculum, and the other one is the school safety administrator. This is trying to keep our resources at the classroom level, at the building level. We are, these 2 positions will be the 4th major position in terms of reducing administrative staff. For fiscal year, that brings our total cuts for next year to $2.5 million proposed. You will also see at the bottom of those 2 years that we have our Executive Director of Student Wellness, we have our Recovery Coordinator. That's a grant from the federal government. That grant we believe we're going to have through 2 more years. We have written for an extension of that grant, a renewal. We're optimistic we're going to get it. And we know that the whole recovery arena continues to need attention, and we will be looking for other grants to replace that federal grant when it goes away. In fiscal year '26, we are adding 2 additional cuts to our contracted services, and this is a purchase service. It will not require any layoffs. It will just require a reduction in the purchase service contract, and that is 2 security positions at the secondary level. In '27, we are going to be replacing one of our district positions with a contracted position, which will also allow us to see some reductions. So we are hoping for another 2.7, 2.8 million, 2.9 million reduction in those last 3 years. As you will see when Courtney presents her part of this presentation, that's not going to take away the total deficit. because at the same time, we've had to add some things back. Our numbers are growing in special education, and that is requiring more special education services and personnel to be employed. We are also seeing some increases in certain grade levels while we see decreases in others, and it's very difficult to predict where your enrollment numbers are going to lead to fewer sections or where your enrollment numbers are going to lead to more sections. In May, May or June, when we bring you this again, and we bring you the additional amendment to the budget, we will know those numbers a little bit better because we'll have a projection on where we're going to be next year. We'll also be able to see how far the numbers this year were off that projection, so we'll be able to do a recalculation. So we will bring you what Courtney's going to show you. We're going to bring you back at the end of the year, and there may be more reductions that we're able to see, especially with attrition. In addition, we're hopefully going to be able to get some potential revenue enhancements. We are going to continue to seek grant opportunities. We've added some this year. We are continuing to use specialists in multiple areas to seek grants in those areas. Another program that we're starting this year in our general ed program, we've done it somewhat in special education, is Medicaid billing for mental health services. If we are able to pay for some of those mental health services that qualify for Medicaid billing, it will help offset the costs of our mental health staff, social workers, counselors, FSLs. And so Todd, I thank him and the crew he's worked with in getting us started this year, and we're hoping we can grow that. I'm hoping we can grow that eventually to a couple $100,000. So there's some hoops we have to jump through in order to do it, but Todd tells me we're going to begin the billing next month, so we'll see how it works. And then, of course, we said to you before that at some point in time, the board may or may not want to consider some kind of bond issue or sinking fund, because at this point there's $500,000 a year built in for our facilities. You, of course, have some money in your fund equity to back you up if there were ever any serious emergency that you had to cover. But eventually, we have to get a source of funding back for facilities, which was lost when the sinking fund also sunsetted in 2022. When that sunsetted, you lost about $1 million a year in funds that came into you for facilities attention. So Courtney's ready to go on and show you how this impacts the 5-year projection, but if you have any questions on what I've presented as the reductions, I'll be glad to answer them now. I have added all those years of reductions, by the way. If you want, if you're adding them up, I do have them added. But are you ready to move on then to the 5-year forecast?
I am. I think
Okay.
I'll save my comments for the end because I think it's a bigger picture than.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me this evening. So, as Dr. Markovich had mentioned, the budget is still not balanced. We're looking at about a $325,000 deficit for fiscal '24. However, there are still several months left in the year, and we continue to make changes and look at savings, potential savings that we can do to reduce that deficit. So we're hoping that by the time we bring you the final amended budget in May or June, that number will look a little bit different. If we do end up this year out of balance, we will take whatever the amount we are out of balance out of our our general fund balance that is restricted for health insurance. So last year, we experienced a significant increase in the cost of health insurance. And rather than passing that increase on to our employees, the district decided to cover a larger portion to allow our employees to recognize a raise. Had we passed the full expected increase onto them. Many of our employees would have recognized no raise last year. So because those increases are carried year over year, we're seeing those impacts on the future years as well. And we have about $3 million in our general fund equity that is designated for that purpose to help with any unforeseen home insurance increases. I also want to point out that there's a line that says restricted surplus. The restricted surplus is about $490,000. That is the amount that is the excess revenue over expenses due to our agreement with the Lighthouse Connections Academy. We are required to put that into fund equity, into the restricted fund equity for that purpose. So we have to reflect that in that bottom line. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood what that was. With the information that we are showing today, we are still looking at a deficit in the future years as well. This is mainly due because our projections for future years are based off of our current year projections. So as we get more accurate numbers for this year, it will also change those future years. So when the final amended budget comes to you at the end of the year, those numbers will look different as well as we reflect the actual changes for fiscal '24.
Before you leave this page, Courtney, I just want to point out that when we brought you the forecast last year, the cumulative deficit over 5 years was nearing 10 million. So we are moving in a very positive direction with our reductions. I know it would be nice to have 0 versus 5 million, but we are moving in the right direction.
Yes, and we have many unknowns, as we've seen with the grants just this year. New grants are coming in, we're constantly going after new revenue funds. Staffing changes change. As Vicki was speaking, we have restructured some positions through attrition, so we're constantly looking for ways to mitigate some of that deficit. So that number is not final, it's just a projection, so we can see where we're going to start making those decisions now to help lessen the impact in the future. So these are just indicating the large variances between the different categories. They're pretty much the same as we had last time. The facilities changed, the technology, but we didn't have any major swings based off of the changes from the last budget projection that I brought to you in October. So those are just the same as we had. For the revenue assumptions, we have not received our audited pupil count, but we did still use the same revenue assumptions that we used when we were doing the October version of the 5-year projection. We're still looking at, based off the demographer, that seated enrollment is going to be declining. That was based off of seeing more seniors going out of the district versus kindergartners coming into the district. So many other districts are seeing the same thing. It's based off of family size and just the demographics of the families that we're seeing today. Some other updates on the revenue. One of the major increases from the last time was we received more MIPSR's UAAL rate stabilization. So the state of Michigan gives us money through our state aid payments that is used as a pass-through to send through to the ORS retirement system. So although we recognized a higher revenue in that line item, we also had to recognize a higher expense because it's just an in and out. So they give us more revenue on the state aid, we get more revenue in our MIPSR's payment each month. We also received some final grant award allocations, and then we did have additional grants awarded since last I brought the budget to you. This is the same spreadsheet that I was presenting to you last time, but I have updated a few things, so I just wanted to give you some new numbers. So on this slide, the things I want to know is we did receive our final allocations for the title grants. When I brought this to you a couple weeks ago, we had received $409,612 for our title grant. That was our initial estimated allocation. When we received our final allocation, it was $482,730. So I believe it was Colleen had asked if those tended to go up or down. I just wanted to make sure that you saw that we received the final allocations and they were increased. On the next page, I added an award, a grant that we were awarded. We received the Literacy Essentials Oakland grant, so I added that onto our list of awarded grants. And then we also have several that we have been researching. So the Section 27H is mentoring services. Section 27L is educator compensation. Section 35J is early literacy program. And Section 97I is firearm detection software. So like I indicated last time, this is an evolving document, constantly adding, changing, updating, and as we get the new information, we're making sure that we're keeping track of it here. Here's some updates to the expenses. So as Dr. Markovich said, we've experienced some increase in needs in our special education costs. So we've added some district-wide programs resulting in the need for additional supports. We have our enrollment for OVA was more than we had expected, so that increased some of our vendor payments that are based on enrollment numbers, like software licensing or the payments to our community vendors. Those are all enrollment based, so more students equals more expenses there, as well as the teacher cost. We did have to add some additional teachers, mainly at the elementary level. We saw an increase in the elementary student enrollment, so we had to add a couple teachers there. Some of the things that we have been decreasing, we looked at the reductions in the facility plan. As Dr. Markovich mentioned, we reduced it down to about $500,000 per year. That will be used for any emergency fixes that we need. If we exceed that, then we would have to look at going into fund equity to fund some of the bigger projects. Or we could potentially look at the sinking fund. We're looking at converting student technology from Chromebooks to iPads. And I don't want to steal the technology department's presentation, so you'll hear much more on that tonight. But that is also reflected in the revised 5-year budget. We've been really looking at workshops and conference travel, trying to reduce the expenses that we're seeing there. We've been utilizing more train the trainer so that we can send a couple people to get trained and then they can come back and do in-house PD with the rest of our staff rather than sending big groups out to the outside locations. We're looking at reductions in overtime usage, both in our district employees as well as our contracted services, trying to reduce those expenses that we have. And then other reductions are the ones that Dr. Markovich had touched on before I started. Any other questions?
When you were speaking of the staff health insurance and how that excess cost was absorbed by the district for this year, is that built in to continue doing? And also, are we looking at other providers for cost savings?
Well, let me just clarify one thing. Last year, we proposed that we might have to use $300,000 of the $3 million set aside for insurance. As the budget went last year, we never had to withdraw anything. So that $3 million is still whole in the fund equity. When you saw the potential budget shortfall of $324,000 at the end of this year, if in fact that or any part of that remains a budget shortfall, then we would go to that same fund. Right now, all of those insurance costs are built into our general fund. So far, we've taken nothing out of fund equity. If, in fact, we end the year and it's not balanced, that would be what we would move. We would move some of that restricted insurance money into the insurance costs to eliminate any deficit we had in the budget. But if our budget can cover it, we cover it. It's only if our budget would have a shortfall. Last year, we thought it would. It ended up we didn't. This year, it may, but we're hopeful it won't. So that 3 million stays there as kind of your cushion for insurance costs going forward. Brian is here, and would you mind just telling them about our plans to, on going forward with insurance?
Good evening. We've talked about RFPing our provider or our insurance consultant. The thing that's really important for all of you to know, though, is that with our plans, we've experienced a lot of changes with COVID in 2020, seeing utilization drop and then kind of skyrocket. So our plans technically with Blue Cross Blue Shield are not creditable. We are above what they would expect us to be. So we're running like 120%, 20% over what they would expect us to be on those rates. So this year, that will, for 7/1/2023, the current plan year that we're in, that resulted in a 16% increase in cost. And that's what Courtney was speaking to you about, that the district could not, we've agreed to split the cost evenly with the collective bargaining group, so the district would pay half, the employees would pay half. That's not reasonable, and that's why we came to Dr. Markovich with a proposal to possibly dip into that money that was set aside, because as Courtney stated, our staff would not have realized a raise. So we're intending on looking into an RFP process when we have a new superintendent, and to look into some other things like there are other options on the market for health insurance, such as a pool or self-funded, but that's not a decision that we're going to explore without our new superintendent in place.
I think it's important to note too, when we say waiting for the new superintendent, the open enrollment periods for staff in our schools is different than maybe our personal employers, and they align at different times of the year. So the open enrollment is about to begin for you guys, correct?
Yes, it'll be in April or May.
So changing it today wouldn't necessarily make sense for any of our staff, because it could flip it upside down while we do the RFP process, which normally takes 30, 60, 90 days to get quotes back from different vendors. It will be next enrollment period, which will fall under the new superintendent. So I just want to clarify, we're not waiting for things, it's just also the timing in which open enrollment occurs.
Yeah, we couldn't do an RFP now and have it in time for our employees to start on 7/1. Also, I think it's important to note the experience travels with us as a group. So kind of like a credit score, it's going to go with you no matter what company you go to. So we can get proposals from other companies. We are very comfortable with the Blues. Our employees have always been insured under the Blues since I've been here for the past 9 years. But we could request proposals from other insurance companies. It's just that experience will follow us too. We've had increased utilization. We're in active talks with our insurance agents to go back to the Blues and say, we've experienced things other groups haven't. Our people are utilizing more healthcare, and that's a good thing, because they're getting access to resources that they need. So we are actively having those conversations, and our agent is working on our behalf to hopefully ensure we don't have another double-digit increase like the 16% we realized starting on 7/1/23.
Thank you. So just a couple other comments too, because we did have a finance committee prior to bringing this to the full board. So we got a little bit of a look and had some conversation about it. And I think in general, some individuals may or may not realize that special education funding, even though the state of Michigan provides a certain percentage for special education, the federal government under IDEA does not provide the state pass-through dollars at the rate that they should. And that's part of the advocacy efforts that myself and Mary both work on, is going and talking to the feds and how do we increase that. If we increase IDEA, we can increase expenditure of the general fund onto things that make sense. Another note to point, sometimes I hear conversations about our fund balance, and maybe that, looks inflated, but there is a threshold where the state will come in if your fund balance dips down a certain percentage to your total budget and do emergency management style leadership, and that's something we want to avoid as well, because that is usually when they start looking at pupil-driven programs that we currently have, and we don't want to reduce any of those. I do know that the FTE reductions are always hard to hear, and I thank Dr. Markovich for looking at the top first and not the classrooms, and that is, I think, a good way to lead. This is just a plan. As of today, the plan could change as we have funding changes and grant changes. So this is just to give us an outlook. I know Amanda sent me today the SEMCOG population study that just came out, and Oakland County is not faring well for population growth over the next 5 years, which is contributing to our pupil deficit that we're seeing in our classrooms. In general, the average family size is down to 2.85 from like 3.76. So things have changed amongst our demography as well. I do hope that, we Bring Michigan Back program does bring Michigan back, but Michigan is a state of migration right now, which we're aware of. With that being said, I don't know if you guys had any questions, sorry.
More of a point of clarity. I see obviously on increases, we have OVA vendor payments, OVA teacher costs because of the increase in enrollment. I remember one of the past meetings, there's a certain cap, right? That we exceeded, and that's why it's not linear as far as how our pupils, so if you could go back to that, I remember.
Yeah, so for our OVA shared time and part-time OVA students, so not our students in our district, they are limited to a 10% growth. So if we exceed the 10% growth, then we do not get to recognize the per pupil allowance for those students. It's 1 year delayed, so the amount that they're going to take back from us this year is based on our growth from last year. So we will experience a take back this year. It is worked into the budget, so that is already recognized in that revenue. I do want to say something about the revenue though. Like I noted that we have not received our audited pupil count. There's also more line items on the state aid report that has not been finalized yet. Usually everything shakes out around February or March, and special education is one of those line items. So it's all waiting for like the different reporting that we did last year to be audited, and then they do the calculation, and then they'll adjust our state aid payments accordingly. So that is another revenue that could fluctuate up or down based on my estimations.
In regards to the 9,608 per pupil, that is the lowest. There are other districts in the county that receive more, and that's dependent on their tax base. But there was a finance study that came out in 2018 and then renewed in 2021 that the cost for education in 2021 of a student is over $11,000. So although the state is increasing the amount they're giving us per pupil, it's still severely inadequate to what it is actually costing a district. And that's why we have to do so much grants. And it's normal in school districts to chase a lot of grants.
And I will add to that, the School Finance Research Collaborative Study also does not, that is the base to educate every student. That doesn't include special education costs, transportation costs, other costs like that. They use different factors to add to that. So that's just the base cost to educate a student in Michigan.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, so thank you, Courtney. And then as they said, they'll be bringing these back quarterly until we get in a really, well, we're already in a good cadence, but a cadence of discussing these more frequently. So that way we're not surprised when things don't pan out and we have to balance the budget in a way that's uncomfortable. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the other item under the superintendent's report is the ongoing recovery effort plan.
Thank you. And I'm going to start with the title because I realized something tonight that I hadn't realized before. We changed the title of the report to Ongoing Recovery Efforts, and we thought when we did that, it was going to be clear that ongoing meant all the time. It would never end. But I noticed that the old report was 2021 to,
Agenda.
what?
Being in the agenda.
3-year recovery plan. Oh, the agenda. The agenda doesn't match the name of the report. Okay, I didn't notice that. Sorry about that. But we do want it to be ongoing. We went from 2021 to 2024, which was the old report, and ongoing to us meant we'd always look at it in 3-year chunks, but the 3 years would always move on. So it would be like an unending 3-year report. And so our intention was to have this be ongoing, and we'll have to watch postings and language and picking up things and cutting and paste from here, there, or wherever. Anyway, so what we have done in this report and is we used Amanda's suggestion from last year, which was why don't you just color code each time you are amending the report so that we can kind of see what was and what is. And so you will notice throughout this report the color coding. Allison did the safety security and she chose purple and all the rest of the folks chose red. We're going to tell Allison she has to go to red so that when we post this it's all one color and no one's wondering why we have 2 different colors in there. You will notice that in the color additions, this is telling you where we have come with that particular goal and objective or action step. And you will also notice that we've put no color into the 4th column because that is where we're going to enter end of the year data and evidence of percents accomplished here, numbers of people signed up for this. You can see all sorts of evidence metrics in that 4th column. So this is mostly 3rd column work. Where are we going with our action steps and strategies? I am not going to go through this page for page. We have other things on the agenda. We're going to post this as well on the website and move forward there. I will say that we have been very careful in our budget reductions to impact none of the things you see in this report. We've been careful to not impact mental health. We've been careful to not impact any ground level, building level, security intervention, equipment, process or procedure or personnel, not at the building level. We believe that we're making good progress. You'll get another update at the end of the year. We'll use another color, and then eventually in the fall you will get a whole new 3-year series of an ongoing continuation plan. And we'll try to cure the confusion over what those dates mean. Certainly clear up any confusion on an agenda posting. If you have reviewed this and you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them. Otherwise, we are open to any questions at any time from anyone on any component of this plan.
I do have some questions. Going into the SEL and mental health.
Can you tell me the page?
Page 5.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the PASS screener that is being piloted and how that relates to SABRS? Do they coincide or are they separate?
You are on page 5.
I'm on page 5 under the 3rd column, the very last bullet point where it says pilot the people attitudes to self in school screener.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The You Matter meetings? Oh, pilot the pupil attitudes to self in school, the PASS screener to help identify. Yes, Todd, can you speak to that, please?
So the Math Screener, the way we're going to pilot it right now is we're going to use it as a progress monitoring tool. So those students that are identified for Tier 2 services, once we identify them as a group, we're going to use that screener to determine where their baseline is at, and then once they go through that Tier 2 intervention, what their exit data is. So that's going to help to determine, was that intervention effective, or do we need to pivot and try a different resource or a different intervention to meet that child's needs. So that's the purpose of it from the pilot, and then we can grow it from there after we can run it through its courses and see where we're at. Bridges specifically is going to be using that on a little bit different scale, ultimately, initially, because they've got a smaller group of students over there. So we're going to use that probably with all of their students that are involved in those Tier 2 interventions, just to get that baseline data and then outcome-based data.
And how is it different from Sabres?
I would rely on Dr. Christine Russell to speak to that.
Okay.
She's really delved deep into that particular tool.
Okay.
But it goes into a bit deeper aspects, and I can't tell you, I apologize, I can't tell you exactly which areas it goes into specifically. So.
I can get that answer for the board, however, Amanda, and bring it back to you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Sorry, turn that back on. I had another one under staff wellness.
The page?
Page 11. And it had referenced the well-being pulse survey. And so on that, you know, it had the questions, the district prioritizes my health and well-being, and it was strongly disagree, disagree, agree, and strongly agree. And we look to be about 15 to 20% of staff disagreeing with that statement, and that they are aware of employee assistant programs, the type of help it provides. And so I just was wondering if there was additional information on that. Was there an opportunity for staff to provide explicit feedback as to those points? Because I know a 5-6 question survey, you know, doesn't offer that. I'm sorry, Ryan, to call you out here. And what type of things have been identified and are in process to be improved?
Apologies for walking in front of everyone again, but Amanda, thank you for your questions around the pulse survey. We completed that in October with our wellness champions, and we did gather explicit feedback that was shared and discussed in our wellness committee, and our building level champions are working on. The data was aggregated, but then we also we were able to drill down by building to know what specifically each group wanted to work on within their team. So we're working on that with our wellness committee, with the building champions, excuse me. As well as we're starting a study with the CTIP, it's a campaign for trauma-informed policy and practice workbook with our wellness committee. Today was our first meeting. It was canceled, unfortunately, not our first meeting, our monthly meeting, canceled today due to weather, but we are starting that study now. It's a 30-page workbook with very actionable links included under every section on how we can be more trauma-informed in our practice and address some of the concerns that were brought up in that specific feedback, as well as it is in our newsletter every month in our trauma-informed workplace section that we are gathering questions, feedback explicitly from any person. It's anonymous, so it won't be tied back to anyone, but that's always open to, we're always asking for more feedback in that arena.
Ryan, do we send that newsletter to the board? Because okay,
Should be receiving
thank you.
it, yes. And it's linked out, when this goes live, it's linked out, you can see some of that work.
Thank you.
Ryan, why don't you stay there just in case the other, okay?
One last one here. Page 12, parent involvement will be encouraged and emphasized. Do we have any feedback as of right now so far this year and what's been working in each school? Any kind of
We do
things
not
implemented?
Yeah, we do not have school by school data accumulated yet.
Just anything anecdotally of that you know of?
I do not.
Okay, that's all right. I think that's it for me.
Anita would be able to probably tell you what's coming forward from her elementary school, school by school, and Steve would probably be able to report on the middle school, high school, bridges, et cetera. And I can ask them to get anything to you.
I'm sorry, one last thing then too. If we could also get some data around the committees. I know the last time that we had this presentation, there was going to be reconstitution of all the committees. So if we could have a more thorough update on those, that would be appreciated.
We will. It's those committee, that committee work, especially health and committee has been delayed a lot between the snow days and some other things that have come up. So we'll get back on that.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, Board of Education matters. Section A, the second reading of the Neola special update in November 2023. If you recall, Ryan gave us presentations on a lot of the para changes that legislation will go into effect in February. So if I could get a motion. Mary?
Move to approve the second reading of policies. 0122 Board Powers Revised. 1420 School Administrator Evaluation Revised. 3120 Employment of Professional Staff Reissued. 3130 Assignment and Transfer Reviewed. 3131 Staff Reductions / Recalls Revised. 3132 Vacancies Reviewed, new to district. 3139 Staff Discipline Reissued. 3140 Termination and Resignation Reviewed. 3142 Probationary Teachers Revised. 3220 Professional Staff Evaluation Revised.
Can I get a support? James? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Have fun, Ryan. That's a lot of updates for that one. All right, moving on in the agenda. Moving ahead to number 9, since we already had curriculum and instruction. Sam?
Good evening, everyone. On the agenda is the IT-related cabling, electric cabling, as well as the security and badge system for the Drainer Road main building remodel. So I know that's been in your packet the last 2 weeks, so just wanted to get any questions.
Any questions?
As a reminder, the funding for these 2 individual projects, which were bid out late last year, is coming from the Capital Project Fund. At the end of last fiscal year, the Capital Project Fund had a $5.9 million fund balance. This is not coming from the general fund, just as a reminder.
Great. All right, I'll take a motion. Heather?
Move to approve the purchase of the security camera card reader project for the Drainer Road remodel from Eagle Security for $107,670.
Can I get support? Amanda? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion for the next one? Amanda?
Move to approve the purchase for the structured cabling project for Drainer Road remodel from Eagle Security for $158,843.14.
Can I get support? Heather? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item number 10, school and safety operations. In the packet was the school of choice recommendation. If you had a chance to read it. We won't vote on that, though, until the next period. All right, item B. Was there any questions on that? I don't see Dr. Willem in here, but.
She was unable to come, but it's very similar to what you've considered before.
Sounds good.
In fact, it's exactly the same. It's literally exactly the same.
Great. All right, OCS Technology Department iPad presentation. Dr. Van Straven.
As they're coming forward, I want to do a little explanation. Normally, we don't like to bring you anything proposed and then ask you to consider approving it on the very same night. And so we try to avoid that. We have been piloting a conversion to Apple, as you'll get explained, over the course of the year. And the pilot's been going very well, and it's people who are piloting it seem to be very excited and happy about it. And as we reviewed it at the cabinet level, it dawned, we thought we do need to extend the pilot beyond where we are right now into high school level courses, especially around English, social studies, CTE, where there would be more. Right now it's being piloted at the high school at a math course. We wanted to pilot it in courses where there's more research, there's more thematic writing, there's more in CTE, more hunt and search for different kinds of informational indexes, etc. And so we requested if we could get more teachers to quickly pilot it yet this year, February, March, April, May, so that when we went to make a decision or to bring you a decision or the results of the pilot, we could have it more rounded out. That means we have to purchase more iPads to be piloted, and that would be what you're being asked for tonight. And the reason we're asking you to consider, please, approving it on the same night is because it allows us to get that pilot going more quickly. If you have concerns and you are not comfortable approving it tonight, we understand. We'll wait. It'll probably shorten the pilot, by a few weeks, but by 2 weeks, I know. So, we're eager, but we also understand that you may have questions and you may not be ready. So with that, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Gary Van Stavren, and my esteemed colleague, Sasha Kozowski here, is with me. And we both represent the technology department, and this is very exciting. I want to try and contain myself, but this is very exciting. Sasha and I started this investigation and inquiry into this even possibility back in September. And we kept it very, very quiet for a long time because we don't want everyone to think, oh gosh, we're going to go to iPads. So we just investigated, we met with some Apple executives, and just looked at the possibility of this. This was not a possibility before because our network was not robust enough to even consider this. Just too much bandwidth, we couldn't do it. Over the past summer, Sasha was responsible for updating our entire network. So it became a possibility. We were also looking at the costs of Chromebooks and how they have gone up exponentially year after year. When we first implemented Chromebooks years ago, they were about $200 a Chromebook. They're almost $400 a Chromebook now. And iPads have not gone up in cost as much or as rapidly as Chromebooks. They retain their value, okay? And you'll see that up here. They retain their value much longer. So after 4 years, which would be our refresh rate, you can turn an iPad back in for $100. Now it's $100 less. Now it costs less than a Chromebook. So those type of things we have been really investigating, thinking about, and putting a lot of time and energy into. We started a pilot in December, and we started that with elementary and with the high school. And then this has grown. We've vetted this through many different people, through cabinet, and through different teachers and so on. And this has grown to become something that we think could be very feasible for next fall. That's why we're here speaking to you tonight. And as Dr. Markovich said, we are requesting purchase of 120 more iPads to expand our pilot. But you'll see up here, there's some research, and I've got the source at the bottom, and if you have any questions, you want to meet with me, or you want to meet with Sash, after this, we can go over the research with you. But this research, as you can see up there, let's also keep in mind that this research was funded by Apple. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you another research study that's funded by Apple, so we do have to keep that in mind. But they looked at over 240 schools and school systems, school districts. And what they saw was increase in teacher retention, increase in student enrollment, increase in student attendance, and a decrease in student discipline. And you'll see some other things up there as well. One of the other key factors is our techs are often very, very busy with fixing Chromebooks or dealing with Chromebook issues. And iPads are just much more durable machines than Chromebooks. So that will be not as much of an issue. And you'll see on the slide up there, you'll see a reduction in interruptions, instructional interruptions by 30%. Again, we have to keep in mind Apple funded this, but I think that that is something to really consider. The other thing that Sash can also mention is cybersecurity. It's just a more secure platform, more secure product. So more durable, you're going to see increase in student engagement. We are also, we can't really measure it, but some other districts have been able to measure it. I think it's difficult to measure increase in student learning, but up here you'll see some districts have claimed that with iPads they've had an increase in student SAT scores. They've had an increase in student standardized assessments. I'm obviously an advocate for this, but I'm not sure we can make that claim. But that is some pretty powerful, again, information, decrease in student discipline issues. And so you'll see some different quotes up here from assistant superintendents, and so on. And I won't read each of those, but as I said, there's a lot of very positive information about the iPads. And again, when you think about the costs, it's actually going to cost less than a Chromebook. So, what is our timeline, proposal, etc.? So, what we really want to do, as Dr. Markovich said, is due diligence. We started this back in the fall, but we want to expand this, not just at the elementary, middle school, and high school, which was the original plan. We're going to add another class in the high school. We're going to make sure that all 4 core subjects at the secondary are part of the pilot. We're also expanding it into CTE and OSEC. So at the bottom there, you see it's a total of 10 teachers, 168 students, and over about 6 months. So if this was all to be adopted, our plan would be to start at the high school with iPads in the fall. And we would stagger this. We would not just be purchasing iPads, district-wide. We would stagger it over 3 years. And our forecasted savings could be around $1 million over 8 years. So when we look at what Courtney presented earlier, looking at 4 years, if we continue with Chromebooks, that's about a $2 million expense. If we were to go to iPads, it's about a $1.3 million expense. Again, we have visited Troy Public Schools, we visited Troy High School, we also visited Troy Schroeder at the elementary level, we visited Notre Dame Prep Academy, and they are one-to-one iPads. And it was incredible to see the level of engagement that students had. So I'm going to turn it over to Sash. If there's anything else that Sash would like to share.
One of the big things to me with AppleCare, we're all kind of trying to do more with less in these days. And what AppleCare will give us is not only 2 accidental damage replacements a year for 3 years, it also allows us, parents or students, to call AppleCare. And we can use that as an extension of our tech support. That's a pretty big deal to me. I got a couple of notes here. iOS was released in 2007, where Chrome OS was released in 2011, so they've been ahead of the game. They're much more refined Mac operating system. The hardware is much better, in my opinion. We've had a lot of issues with trackpads and screens and keyboards with the Chromebooks. And those are just problems we won't have with Mac. The cases that we have integrated keyboards that are much more durable. And they're very solid cases. The main thing I can see happening is broken screens, obviously, but if they're protected, 2 breaks a year is pretty good cushion. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I just want to say one last thing, that when we were thinking about this back in the fall, I did not think this was possible. I thought iPads, no way, they're too expensive. And so we have been very pleasantly surprised that that is really not the case because of the durability, because of the buyback program after 4 years. Do you have any questions?
James?
I appreciate the presentation and the enthusiasm and everything. And I'm just going to ask some questions here that just came across. Obviously, I'm a technology guy, so it's kind of in my wheelhouse of things. Our life cycle currently for Chromebooks, you said 3 to 4 years?
Yes, about 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years, and then the iPads would be similar?
Yes.
Okay, and then the Apple Care is for 3 years, and then what do we do after that?
For the 4th year? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I would still like to offer insurance for these devices, and for the parents and students that would opt into that, we could use that for any damages that would occur in the 4th year.
Okay. And then currently in the pilot program, are these only in the classrooms, or are they actually issued to the students and they carry them all day long?
Yeah, so at the elementary, we have a first grade teacher at DEA, and so the students are able to take them home. We want them to do that. And that teacher, I should say, that teacher has already expressed she doesn't want to go back. She cannot go back to teaching without the iPads. She's already asked her principal, please buy me a set. I can't do it. At the high school, right now currently, it's 12th grade stats class. Same thing, those students are taking them home. Same thing, the students are incredibly excited. They don't want to go back to Chromebooks.
And then, along with that, as we start growing it to the larger population stuff, I just want to make sure we're not going to have any unforeseen cost from compatibility from a software issue, rather it be from accessibility tools or anything else that we might have already purchased with the Chromebooks, visually impaired students, hearing impaired and stuff, and that's not like, again, later on down the road, it's like, okay, well, we need to look at this and rebudget. Obviously, budget's a big topic this presentation today.
Yeah, I don't foresee anything like that. I know Apple has a lot of good accessibility tools. I utilize myself. Oakland Schools also offers iPads for visually impaired students. There's built-in magnifiers and things like that. And there's a lot of native software that we can utilize as well that would help save costs by third party.
And then you guys said you went down to Troy District and checked them out. My only other thing, as we, depending on what we do on this, I'd like to actually see one just comparable size. I'll speak personally, my kid is a big guy with big hands, and going to a smaller keyboard is just not optimal for him if he's expected to type and to do stuff out. I know myself, this is as small as I want to go. And so that's also a concern, and, wrist fatigue and other things, that most of us adults start dealing with and stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, we both welcome the students' feedback and the staff feedback, and obviously take that into consideration.
Okay.
Can you drop off to the board office a demo unit so that any board member who might want to come and set it up so that people can actually get on it and use it and play around with it can do that?
Yeah, I just want to mention, we'll do that for sure. Okay. We'll do that for sure. I want to mention too, I think we mentioned before, but I want to stress that the device does not set off the Evolve system in high school or middle school. So
I'm sorry, Sasha, I didn't catch that.
really helps.
Sasha, I didn't catch that.
Just, we've done a lot of different tests. One of the tests that we did was taking it through the middle school and through the high school Evolve system. It does not set off the Evolve system. So students, I mean, I've already talked to different students, they are obviously very happy about that, because we have to take it out of their bag, put it on the table. The other thing is that the iPad, you know, you mentioned screen size. It is smaller. It's a 10.2-inch screen size versus 11.6 on the Chromebook. So that is definitely a size difference. But the Chromebook is much heavier. So, you know, the other side is that this is going to be lighter. Students are already carrying so much in their backpacks, so this is going to be a lighter device as well. Any other questions?
I have. So, long-term, you know, assuming that this might be an area that we might go down, what would we do with all the Chromebooks? You know, we've been approving and spending a lot of money over the last couple of years, and then, you know, we're also talking about budget deficits, but we've been approving hundreds of thousands of dollars for Chromebooks over the last 3 to 6 years. So where would we go with, what will we do with them? Will we get money back? Is there a recycling program?
Sure. So we talked with Matt Santo and Janet Shell over at OVA.
Mm-hmm.
They welcome the idea of taking those Chromebooks and using them for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Oh, okay.
So they would definitely be used, and they would be purchasing more devices, which would also be a savings. So.
Yes, because they purchase the most. Okay.
I had a quick one. You had mentioned, and it sounds great, that it will take some of the burden off of the IT department by using the Apple Care. And forgive me, I am not a tech-savvy person, so I just want to ask the question, does that present additional cybersecurity risks by having them, you know, diagnose and remotely access the iPads? No? Okay. Thank you.
Mike?
I just wanted clarification. So I see the pilot will reach, so how many do we have right now?
Currently we have 60.
60, okay.
60.
Okay. So we're asking for... No, I think I'm good.
Mary?
Thank you for the presentation. Now, I'm old, so I was around when some of this stuff was coming out, and I'm a Microsoft person. But how are these systems that we have now going to be able to communicate in Microsoft? And then we've got Apple products here, and we've got a lot of Google-related things. We've got Google Drives, and how is this all going to work together? Are they going to be able to get along?
Again, great question. I mean, we've thought of hopefully all of the questions, but that is something we've thought of as well, and I'm glad that you asked that. So the iPads, because obviously we've also talked to teachers and what do they want. So one of the big things is Google Drive. A lot of our teachers use Google Classroom. And so they will still have Google Drive accessible on the iPad. We also have Microsoft OneDrive. They will still have that accessible on the iPad. We also have Microsoft Office. So we will download, like our PE teachers have said, we need Microsoft Office. We want spreadsheets, Excel, stuff like that. All of that will be on the iPad. Essentially, when I was a principal many years ago in Royal Oak, when iPads back in Royal Oak, and same thing, I went with Apple, went to Chicago and so on. But back then, they just didn't play in the sandbox, okay? Apple was very proprietary, they didn't play in the sandbox with Microsoft or Google. Now they are. You know, my opinion really is that they want to get back into education and get back some market share. Right now, I think they're about 17% of the market share in the United States in education. Google, because of the Chromebooks, because they were so cheap, they've got about 70% of the market share. I think that Apple's trying to get back into it, and so they're playing in the sandbox now with Microsoft and Google. So allowing all those things on their platform.
And all our security type software, the Gaggle, all of those tools will work with the iPads also? And is that part of the pilot that we're?
Yeah, so Apple actually has their own software that we can utilize instead of paying for GoGuardian. So that could be potential savings as well. Apple School Manager allows the teacher to view the entire classroom set of iPads, could actually click into a student's iPad and control it for them. and collaborate that way. But yeah, there's Mosul, which is a management software, has an antivirus solution for it. We wouldn't need an XDR solution or EDR solution. We don't really need that for the Chromebooks either, but we do for Windows devices. But yeah, everything that we currently have will work with it, and we would actually be able to get rid of a few things and realize some more cost savings as well.
So we've talked a lot about the students. What about the professional staff?
So our teachers would get an iPad as well. And so are you thinking about the pilot, or are you thinking about years down the road?
Well, if we're doing a pilot, what are the years down the road thoughts?
So years down the road, our current desktops, okay, our desktop minis are near end of life. We put in RAM and we increased the memory just this past summer, and that bought us a couple more years. But at some point, we're going to have to replace the desktop minis. What we'd like to do is to go laptops, to go more mobile, because then teachers can take the device home, stuff like that. Now, they can't do that right now. So what we're going to do is, this is all in planning, but basically give them an option of a Windows device, so an HP, a Dell, or something like that, but a Windows device, because that is what they're used to. I think 90% of businesses, corporations are Windows-based. Or they would go with MacBook. We would look at a MacBook Air, which would cost less than a Windows device. But again, we don't really want to push that on the teachers. They would still get an iPad. And so, if we did do this, students would all have an iPad, the teacher would have an iPad because of that Apple Classroom, because they're going to be able to seamlessly sync and also be able to share files and so on. The teacher's going to be able to see every student's iPad simultaneously. We're also going to have an Apple TV receiver for the Promethean, and so you can seamlessly cast from any iPad up to the Promethean, and that's going to be over Bluetooth. It's not going to be over Wi-Fi, so you're not going to have to worry about the network goes down, because sometimes that happens. So does that help?
Yeah, and then my other question is, so say that we approve the purchase for the pilot, do you already have the numbers of what the 2024 ask would be to roll the high school up and live with this?
We do. We have an entire spreadsheet that's got everything costed out to 8 years from now.
Okay.
I can share that with you.
That'd be helpful.
Also, I want to know that not trying to preempt the vote and the pilot and all of that, because it was less money, when Courtney did the 5-year projection, she incorporated the costs of the iPads going forward over the next 4 years, because those costs are less than the Chromebooks would have been. So that's where she had in her little presentation, if you recall, iPad conversion under cost savings.
And in that, she also included the 4th-year insurance option, correct?
That I don't know if the 4th-year insurance was included. She included whatever these two gentlemen gave her. Was the 4th-year insurance in what you gave Courtney, or would that be something we'd have to add?
Don't we offer that, isn't that what we offer?
Or is that what we offer parents to buy?
Parents to buy.
Yeah, there's currently something that we offer parents to buy. It's $25 per year. So I don't think that's included.
Is that going to be the same cost if we move to the iPads? So 25 for the Chromebooks, or is it going to be the same? Do you know?
We think it would be about the same.
Rough, okay. And same coverage that we currently have with the Chromebooks, the break fix, broken screens, I dropped it, kicked it across the floor, stuff like that?
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have any known risks out of the current pilot?
Can you define known risks?
So softwares that we thought might have been compatible that are not compatible, or we have new curriculum. You know, we have as parents, we have a lot of apps, right? Do we know of any that are going to be, for instance, the social studies teachers just came a couple weeks ago and gave us their rollout of stuff like those. Are there current PAC groups that have apps that we know aren't going to work and could cause us to do a curriculum change?
Again, great question, because we are so web-based. We use Schoology as our LMS. We have PowerSchool. We have Illuminate DNA, FastBridge, EduClimber. It's all web-based. So far, we've had no known risks, but we do need to further vet all of those things. Moby Max at the elementary, Delta Math, like all of those things need to be vetted for sure.
And that's what this pilot will help us cover?
Correct.
Okay.
And to further add to that, this spring, SAT, PSAT, for the first time is going digital. It's always been paper pencil. So we've already been working on the iOS and the software and so on, and having that tested over the iPads. So that's also going to be part of it. MSTEP testing over the iPads. Troy already shared with us that it's not a problem, and our team has already been working on, I think it's the DRC, which is MSTEP's platform. So we've already been looking at those things as well.
Okay.
Last thing, theft control. What if that's taken, somebody else thinks that it's a better device that they have and they take it? Theft control?
So Apple, I believe, I don't know if it's due to FERPA or what, they don't allow tracking of the devices that are available to students for obvious reasons. I don't know if there's something we can do to turn on or enable, something like that. I guess I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah, I just know going to a, I mean, it's a good device, right? And I'm not gonna argue that fact. I mean, I see the benefits for it, especially from a cost saving side. But, I don't know too many people that are gonna go take somebody else's Chromebook and run off with it. But as we start piloting and start doing this, and if kids got it at home or, and somebody else sees it,
So if the device is stolen, if the student comes and says, hey, I lost my device or I sold my device, we can lock it. We can render it unusable. It'll just be a brick, right?
Okay.
So it'll be useless at that. And then AppleCare does cover lost devices as well.
Okay. Yep, thanks.
All right. Well, I will put it out there to see if someone wants to make a motion. James?
Yep, move to approve the purchase of Apple iPads for the total cost of $57,354.
Do we have support? Amanda? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We look forward to hearing back from you in a couple months. All right, we are moving on to unscheduled public comment. Looks like we have a small handful here. So you have 3 minutes. For those who are new and may not have commented before, the light will be green, then it will flash yellow, and then at red, it will be the end of your time, and we'll be moving on to the next speaker. So with that, we will get started, if you guys are ready. Sarah Taylor.
Hi, for those of you who didn't hear me speak last time, my name is Sarah Taylor. And I just want to start by saying a quick thank you to Aaron, Amanda, and James. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for hearing our voices. And thank you for taking the time to put in the actions that we need. Also, thank you for fighting with us, for those who physically cannot fight with us, and for those whose mental capacity cannot handle being here today. Because let's be honest, survivor's guilt is bad. It's tough for you. The nightmares, the flashbacks, everything you go through. It's a daily battle, whether you like it or not. And to Mary and Heather, why are you still here? Just resign, please. If you love us, just resign.
Thank you, Sarah. Max Reed.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's good.
How's your day going?
Good.
Good, that makes me happy. As you guys would hopefully remember, my name is Max Reed and I'm 17 and I'm a senior at Oxford Virtual Academy. Today I'm here to speak for those who can't, for those who are watching this at home. I'm here for you. I'm speaking for students who are scared to speak up about this, for the students who can't just because their flashbacks are too bad. I'm here because I'm lucky that I can still speak. I wanted to thank Aaron, Amanda, and James for standing with us. We really appreciate your guys' support, like, a lot. Heather, I see that you stepped down as president. Thanks. Truly, we do appreciate it. Even though you haven't fully resigned yet, it'll happen eventually. It's just a fact. Yeah. Mary, same old, sitting there, not responding to anyone. I don't know. I actually hadn't heard you speak until today. I was a bit shocked. It was nice to hear your voice, though. Let's see. Not responding to anyone ever. I mean, if you want people to like you, maybe think about responding to people when they ask about what your day is. It is common courtesy. We learned that in elementary school. I'm thanking you because we need some change. I'm confident that now that things have changed, things will start to get better. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Mark?
I do want to start off with some things that we love about this district. Our strong and committed parents who show up and cheer for our students. Our kind and dedicated teachers who are giving their very best every day. Our great facilities that are clean, well-maintained, and ready to host our students and community. Our theater team with amazing productions like Little Mermaid and Peter the Starcatcher. Our choirs singing and making beautiful music, filling hearts with hope and love. Our sporting events and competitions giving gifted athletes a chance to shine and advance in their abilities. Our student scholars that are persisting and excelling in the face of adversity. The students of this district are my heroes. I'm proud of you and thankful to have you as friends and neighbors. Superintendent Markovich, how can you deny the information provided to you in the $3 million guidepost investigation as inadequate to discipline and terminate the employment of Stephen Wolf immediately, when it's sufficient for the district to utilize that same report in our new lawsuit against the insurance company? It's like a double standard, and we're all sitting here watching you, trying to figure out why you play both sides of the coin against this community. We also notice the excessive security surrounding our superintendent and board members. It's time to extend the same security standards district-wide, or reduce your security detail to one bodyguard and save us some money. It's worth noting our treasurer is Mary Hanser, the same person responsible for wasting $3 million in the last 2 years. Considering all things, Mary, how do you expect this community to hand you more tax dollars when you've already shown us how you can squander money at such an efficient pace? If the district cannot provide competent financial leadership, then it's time for emergency management. We hold our children to the highest standards, and yet we tolerate your financial failures as leadership for our district, a problem that will be solved.
Thanks, Mark. Callie?
Setup is not really user-friendly. Back to the...
If you'd like to use
that
the
we're supposed to be
podium, you
with.
can use the microphone, Callie, at the podium.
Well, I'm here
All
now,
right.
but
Okay.
it would be much more convenient for everybody. I heard about this funding, right, that we're in debt. Our per-student funding in Oxford is significantly diluted because of the non-district students we have. When we have our money coming in for our students, we get our federal funds, right, our state funds, and we get our local funds. The local funds are raised from our community for our students. So if we have 4,000 district students, that money we raise locally is for those 4,000. But when you add 2,000 non-district students to the 4,000, that money that was for our 4,000 students now has to get shared with those. So our students in Oxford get less per pupil money on average when you're diluting that than the students in the other district, because they're having to share those local funds with non-district students. So they're getting less, but their parents are paying.
right? I have a big problem with that. To the extent that you're doing it, it's a big problem. We're in debt $128 million, actually $128.5 million. That's what our district is in debt. There's a big elephant in the room here that you're not talking about. You're talking about all these cuts. You spent $2.5 million on a resort property with 60,000 square foot mother house, 43 bedrooms, 21,000 square foot retreat house, 3 additional homes, a cemetery, an easement, roads that we have to maintain, a cemetery that we have to maintain. We have to illuminate. We have to mow, trim, plow, garden, security, and even pave it, right? And we have to keep it open for the public. And we bought this, but then we went more. We bought that property south of the high school here. And so another 1.5 million's already been put in that. And you don't even have a use for those properties. You bought that with millions and millions of dollars. We're up at $5 million for a property we don't need, right? That all came out of the capital projects fund, right? I heard Barna say that there was like 5.9 million. I just looked at your audited statements. There was $500,000 in there, not 5 million. You spent it all on property, but our student services are getting cut. Sell the property, take the money back, put it in the general fund, give it to the students, and take off your debt. You put $3 million into a report we didn't need that's incomplete, inaccurate. That $3 million is coming right out of the students' funds, right? You could have had that done for free. So now we're $8 million. We're really not in debt. What we have is some really irresponsible decisions by this board. And nobody talked about the purchase of the properties when you're talking about the finances here? Like, it's not even on your stuff. We bought a resort and a sandbox that we don't need. So your EOP is due. It was due January 1st. You didn't do it. You only did for one. You have to do it for every building and every school that you have. That wasn't done. School of choice, you got your IB costs, right? Why are we paying for IB? IB does it does it virtually now, right? You can get that free, you can get that through virtual, so you don't need to have that. Let's cut IB, right? That's a cost we don't need. Let's have complete and accurate accounting of these things that you claim make us so much money. If they were, we wouldn't be in so much in debt because we have all these great initiatives, right? This huge Oxford Bridgeton Academy and all these shared tribe programs that are going, yet we're in debt, right? We're going broke. So maybe they're not making so much money. So I'd like you to prove to me that these programs are making so much money with an actual audit that actually considers the cost of the facilities, the cost of the maintenance, the insurance, the staff time that are being used, the administration time for it, the space in the building that all these administrators are using for non-district students. Account for it properly and prove to us it's making money so we can have a real conversation, but it's not. It's not.
All right. Going on to the next is our schedule activities. I just want to point out that we have our superintendent search focus groups all coming up. There's several different ones, and I apologize, I meant to grab the list off my counter and I forgot it. But there are a few that are listed here in the scheduled activities that are for the community. There is one for students that's different, and then staff that is also separate from that. So there's 3 different options. One of them is virtual for those who can't attend the in-person ones, and the virtual ones can be attended by students as well. It's not rate limiting to them.
They're all posted too, all of the times are posted on the
Yep.
website, I saw them.
Yep, so I just wanted to make sure to point those out. So February 7th and 8th are the in-person ones, and then February 18th, and the reason it's not that same weekend is because that evening was the Super Bowl, and we didn't think we'd get a lot of participation on Super Bowl night. So it is February 18th. Any administrative clarification?
Yes, I do. I really need to clarify how per pupil funding comes into the district. The state, as you saw in the report, gives us 9,000 plus per student, and I'll finish my clarification, please.
No disrespect. I'm new to these meetings, never done before. I've watched them online, but that was real disrespectful. I've been belonging to this community since 1989. I got 3 kids that came through this school system. It is very disrespectful for stuff like that. Stuff that I've been watching online, things like that brings me to this meeting now. You know, I know I was supposed to fill out this thing right here. Didn't know I was supposed to. But the fact of the matter is, for you that I've been watching for a few years now, I got 3 kids that came through this school. And I got a son that was in the school when it happened. That's smart ass.
you ought to resign. I'm listening to people around this community. You people that are involved should resign.
Okay,
And,
so,
excuse me, one question. I'm a tax-paying citizen person, and just want to make a couple comments. One is, very good point. I came in here for my kid getting an award last month, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I'm excited. But I see all these other parents, and I got security everywhere. Damn, that's a lot of money. You all don't need that much security. You're not that important, to be honest with you. You're not that important. So, you know, do something for the kids and the families that lost them. If you do anything in your life ever again, do something for them kids. Don't do it for me or do it for this guy that's angry. Do it for their kids, them parents, them family members. You ought to walk home and just resign.
Thank you.
I've never seen something so disrespectful to people that come here.
Sir.
And I've been sitting here being quiet, just watching, and that's what kind of pissed me off. Some comment like that to somebody out here that's a tax-paying person that you're supposed to be representing because you're elected official or appointed, whatever it may be.
Sir.
I'm not that involved, but believe me, I will be involved. Ma'am, no disrespect. I'm a tax-paying guy here. I pay my taxes. I paid my dues to the school here. I'm going to take a few minutes of my time, of your time. I don't think anybody here really minds, other than probably the board, because they can't handle the truth.
no, that is fine, but what I'm hoping is that now that you've been here with us and you understand our procedures,
I promise you the next time.
you'll fill out a card, and you'll come in. Thank you. Thank you, that's all I need. Yeah. Now, is it okay if I continue with my clarification?
Just let me finish up, I'll finish up real quick. The other thing, the superintendent thing you're doing right now, it's the craziest stuff I've ever heard. Let's go ask the community, let's go ask me, my personal opinion, how we're gonna hire somebody, so I can bring my own ideologies and my thoughts. His. Why don't you have somebody in the school system that's professional, that's educated, and hire somebody that fits the mold? Don't just hire somebody based on their color or where they came from or something like that. Hire somebody that's qualified.
And you will have an opportunity
I
to
don't
talk.
want the opportunity. I want
Okay.
somebody that's hired by the school system that my tax dollars pays to interview and look at people's credentials and hire the right person for the job.
We will do that.
Not somebody that, you know, a million people out in this community to give their advice. It's not how you hire somebody.
So we have an agreement that next time you'll fill out a card?
Prompt, guaranteed.
Okay, and now I can,
Apologize, no disrespect.
now
Everything is-
I can complete my,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. So there was a statement talked about how per pupil funding comes into the district, and I really need to correct it. We get $9,000 plus per student. That is for every student that lives here, every student that's in our virtual school, every student who is a school of choice student. And that is funding that this budget relies on. And it's $9,600 and some dollars. No student comes here without bringing that money to this district. No student comes here without bringing that money to this district. And I just wanted to clarify that, because it was a piece of misinformation. Thank you very much.
$9,000 that comes to this community, that comes to this district for that out-of-district student, that school.
Sir, if you don't mind.
What does the cost for them to educate? What does the school system cost for that, to actually educate that child?
It costs over $11,000 to educate a student, so,
I knew the amount.
yes.
When you guys rolled
So,
this out 5 years ago.
sir, only because we have procedures in the meeting, if you stay, I'll talk with you for just a moment afterwards. Just final board comments, I do want to make note on a board committee for the governance committee and the organizational meeting, I had appointed Mike. Since then, we're going to reorganize, and I'm going to appoint myself to it. Mike has some other obligations, so without going into detail. And then also just a reminder to board members, tomorrow's the last day, if you haven't already done the board survey, to get it done so we can get the results back in time for the superintendent's training and the retreat, to reset our goals. All right. Is there any other board comments? All right. Appreciate everyone's time tonight. Have a good evening. This meeting's adjourned.